Excellent. We are live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We actually have all three. My morning, for Steve it's evening, and for Fons. Fons, you are in Europe right now, aren't you?
I am.
Awesome. So it's afternoon.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's right.
So global. It's always exciting when you can get the whole world at the same time in one place. But that's what Coacharia is all about. Bringing people together from all around the world. Including the lawnmower next door. So apologies if you guys hear that. I'll mute myself in a second. My name is Magda, and I'm the CEO of Coacharia. And I'm here with Steve and Fons Trompenaars.
Well done.
Yes. We were just having a discussion about pronunciations of our crazy European names. I'm Walczak or Walzak or anything in between. Just call me Magda. Anyway, I am here with these two lovely gentlemen because Fons is one of our speakers at Awake, Aware, Arise, and his discussion partner is Steve, one of our Coacharia core cheerleaders, community, etc. And we wanted to do a bunch of little videos to introduce our speakers, introduce the event. So the event is actually starting on September 21st, awakeawarearise.com, and I'll put that in the chat, etc., and the notes. And we will have 3 sessions every single day at different times of day, so that wherever you are in the world, you have a chance to attend some sessions. So 3 sessions per day, Monday through Thursday, for 5 weeks. Completely free to attend. If you want CCE or CPD credits, there's an administrative fee. But if you just want to come and learn, you're more than welcome to. So please tell your friends, colleagues, etc. And you will see amazing speakers like Fons. So without further ado, I'm going to mute myself and I will let the gentlemen introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what you can expect when you go to their session at Awake, Aware, Arise. Steve, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Magda. Hello, everyone. As Magda said, I'm Steve Correa, and I'm really delighted to be joined by Fons Trompenaars as a dialogue partner on the 14th of October at the Coacharia event. I currently work as an executive coach and as an OD consultant. I have over 3 decades of corporate experience, and of this, 18 plus years has been at the ringside as a CHRO with overall responsibility for HR. Thankfully, I've had a wide spectrum of experience across multiple enterprises, from global corporates, MNCs, including family-led professional businesses. My industry exposure includes pharmaceuticals, office automations, FMCG, telecoms, IT, ITS, and more recently, Alco-Bev. And I've worked both in India and abroad. I'm very delighted to share that I've recently authored a book. It's titled The Indian Boss at Work, Thinking Global, Acting Indian. And you can know more about that at my website. But let me come to the 14th of October. That's why we are here. Hopefully, between Fons and I, we will have a highly interactive session with all of you joining in the dialogue. Fons and I will dialogue on the session, which has been titled Universally, Humans Have Common Dilemmas, Yet how we respond to it is cultural. The subtitle is really a dialogue around paradoxes, polarities, and dilemmas of our times. Fons will bring, hopefully, his strong research-based ethic, which is the outside-in lens to India and Indianness, while I look at research from indigenous psychology, which is called the emic lens. We argue, and we are joined in that argument, that the imperatives that face all humans are universal. Yet how societies and nations respond to these imperatives are actually a response from their culture. Now, more than ever before, especially in times of COVID, we see that there is a need to be able to co-hold the two worlds, the multiple lenses, and to blend it, if you like, with what I would call the Harvard and the Rishi, what I would like to term as the Rajeshri model of leadership, which is most crucial for our times. I really look forward to all of you joining us at this session, and welcome in advance. Fons, over to you.
Thanks, Steve, and thank Magda for a wonderful introduction, and what a good spelling of my name. It is a pleasure to work with Steve on a highly interactive session very soon. Also building on my own experience, starting after my economics degree, immediately did a PhD at Wharton on what is the effect of national culture on corporate culture. I joined Shell for 9 years, worked in HR, and tried to apply it. And what I found in the application is that knowing cultural differences, which was kind of the basis of my thesis, was helpful, but not enough. Because you could have an understanding of Dutch culture and British culture, because Shell, where I worked, was an Anglo-Dutch company. But what do you do in order to let them work together better? And then knowledge of differences is a basis, but you need to reconcile the dilemmas and also to make choices when it's not a dilemma. Now, after my Shell times, I did research on this in a variety of areas, and I applied it in consulting. The latest work we did was on COVID-19, by the way. We looked at what are the 10 golden dilemmas of COVID-19. Let me quote one, the tension between health and economy. And you see that cultures react to that differently. There are those cultures who start with health and then worry about the economy. And those cultures like Brazil and the US that go for the economy, and I wish they were then worried about health. In other words, the dilemmas are universal, but the approach is different. One of the conclusions out of COVID-19 was very interesting, is that one of the most basic dilemma that was best reconciled by cultures led to less death by corona. And one of the two conclusions was leadership and we call it inside out. Do you learn enough from the outside world that you can use inside your world? Now, on the leadership one, and that goes very much in harmony with Steve, is that servant leadership is a leadership model that works in any culture. In other words, the dilemma between serving and leading, like most fathers and mothers know very well, at sometimes you hit them, and at sometimes you caress them. But it's a dilemma, and a good parent tried to combine the two. And that is something we will discuss. In a nutshell, the dilemmas are universal. Global versus local is everywhere. Individual freedom and teamwork is everywhere. But Americans start with the individual and worry about the team, and the Japanese start with the team and worry about the individual. And that is something we would also like to apply in what Steve has written about in this wonderful book, The Indian Boss at Work. I already think the title is challenging. And it's not a dilemma, by the way, Indian bosses at work. Because normally it's the others that work and the Indian boss is sitting there. I'm just kidding, Steve. What we will do is to have a great discussion in also what can you as a participant do in order to apply that in your own environment. So 14th of October, be there.
Be there.
You should be there. Yeah, I'll be there. That sounds awesome. But with the joy of small business, small business. Cocharia is small in terms of the employees. You can be the boss and do work as well, no matter what culture.
Very good.
Excellent. Steve, is there anything else you wanted to?
So I think just one comment, Fons, that at one level, it's not only about two different cultures or two different nations or two different societies. But one of the aspects, at least with regards to India, is the fact that there is a primary system that comes from the Kal, Desh, and Patra, one's inheritance and one's origin and one's social character, etc., etc. And the fact that today, with postmodernism, we live in a world which is a Western foreground and with much of aping around the West. So the Indian leader, in that sense, is actually working with both the primary and the secondary axis of a Western orientation and an Indian orientation. And within him itself, he is managing a lot of dilemmas, contradictions, polarities, and is torn between reconciling, working in a Western foreground, but with an Indian background.
Yeah.
And that creates for him what in our language we call the dharam sankatas, which is how does he manage to integrate these two sides of him in order. And some Indian leaders have been able to successfully integrate that, and they're very have a fabulous reputation both abroad and in India. But I dare say a large number of Indians continue to struggle to co-hold those two orientations within and to bring that kind of integration to themselves. So it's also a culture from within.
Yeah, no, Steve, very, very much so. And I must say, I admire Indian culture for the fact that they have picked out some very interesting golden nuggets from Western society. If you look at the times there was British ruling, you took this great idea of education, and it seems to be completely integrated now in Indian society. It's the importance of education, and you have done it in so sophisticated ways that you're now, I would say, worldwide the number one in a lot of software development, digital type of environments. So even within the education, you have chosen for, perhaps intuitively, for the right way to go. If you get companies like Infosys, but many others that have grown so large because they did a lot of good work with well-educated people. This is just an example. And I think also in the Indian soul, there is something like, perhaps better than the Western soul, of reconciliation. I know Gandhi was interviewed by, at that time, the Prime Minister of the UK, and it might be Margaret Thatcher, and she said, what do you think of English democracy? And she said, a pretty good idea. and I must say, there is so much we can learn in the West from the whole, in general, Asian philosophy, like the yin and the yang, but also Indian philosophy, where there is so much to learn in terms of reconciling, that I think together we're stronger.
Yeah, I think, Fons, one of the ancient precepts is really the whole notion of Dharma, which is what somebody said is India's word to the world. Yes. And essentially, Dharma is about being contextually relevant. So while if you look at it from a Western lens, there is a rule is a rule is a rule, and there is a desire to have equity. In India, you'll hear most Indians say it all depends, because they genuinely believe it all depends on the context. Yes. And unlike other cultures where perhaps there are some, 10 commandments or some edicts and some fair rule of conduct, the Indian leader is expected to sometimes, from the situation itself, bring awareness to what he or she needs to do, which is right by oneself and right by society. Yes. And there are no golden answers. And I think that therefore the whole concept of Dharma itself is a fantastic concept, which probably has its implications for the entire world.
No, very good. May I build on that? And I think what I noticed, the work I do in India, and I'm not doing that much work, but I do work in India, is that the important role of humor. I have parts of the world where I'm very careful. Why? Because if you're giving a workshop, you should be serious. Now, for me, and the Indians really understand that best, is that a big sign of being serious is to be humorous. And why? Because I once did some work with John Cleese. And John Cleese, I learned from him that humor is when two opposite logics both turn logical and it makes you laugh. Right?
Absolutely.
The example he gave is there were 4 prisoners playing cards. One was cheating, so they kicked him out of jail. Yeah. Now that is context, and you reverse text and context, and it makes you laugh. So if karma is about context, then humor is very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's embarrass Magda. You've worked on both sides, India and outside. So any perspectives on India?
Man, you know what? I think all the people that I work with in India have learned to tolerate me and my special sense of humor. So it's more, I feel sorry for the Indians than
Helpful.
You know what? I think what's really cool about my interactions with people in India, people around the world. I mean, I've been really fortunate to have grown up in Poland. My parents and my sister and I then immigrated to the United States when I was 12. I then lived in Australia for a long time, and I worked for a South African company while I was there and did some consulting for Chinese branch of the company. And when I moved back to the US, I was in a job again that let me travel, required me to travel, and that's been the story ever since. So I feel like I'm a global citizen, and I love sessions like the one that you guys are going to have, because sometimes I think I've become almost too blind to some cultural differences because I take things for granted, because I'm such a mutt when it comes to cultures that, when you talk about Fons, the expectations of how you present yourself when you're leading a workshop in different countries, to me that almost doesn't play anymore, because I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm just me, I'm a weirdo, and then some people end up loving me and some hate me. So I think I'll learn a lot from this session.
Yeah, but Magda, my advice would be keep on being yourself, because authenticity, people smell it. And they know you're not from India. You don't look really like somebody from India.
Really.
So, if you try to play the Indian soul, they will say, what a second-rate actor. I would say, just be yourself.
That's right. I agree with that.
Play yourself. It's good enough.
Because, yeah, what was it? Be yourself, because everybody else is already taken.
Nice one.
That's another one. Very good. Very good.
Awesome.
Well, I'm very provocative in what I normally do. And people say, but Fons, how can you be so provoking in purist America or in serious Switzerland? And I say, I just make it a topic. I'll just say, listen, in Germany, don't worry, I'll explain the joke twice. And they even start laughing.
Love that.
So, yeah, in Switzerland, 3 times, by the way. And then they get it, and not piss them off. It's just to, be also critical on yourself, because we're just all trying a little bit, and some cultures try it this way and other cultures try it that way. And as long as we're humble about it and not superior.
Yeah.
I agree.
If we all felt 10% less seriously, I think all the wars would be over. And
sure.
This session, this whole entire event, Awake, Aware, Arise, is about what are the systemic problems in the world? Yeah. What can we do at the various different levels, from personal all the way through, government and community? What can we do to address them? And starting with a bit of more self-awareness and not taking yourself as seriously, I think would go a long way towards a lot of systemic problems we're going to be talking about.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm not saying there are no serious problems. There are very serious.
Oh yeah, of course.
But some are created because people are too serious. Yeah. And I think we can do a lot about it during the session as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And Steve, compliments for your book. It's
Thank you.
really good stuff.
Let's see, 25th September. Let's see how it's received.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah, Steve, make sure you send me a link because, yeah, and actually anyone who's watching, if you're one of our speakers, send me a link to your books. We actually have quite a few authors this time around. I'm quite excited. If there's one good thing that happened with all the craziness in the world and COVID-19 is that people's creativity seems to be unleashed. And people are putting pen to paper quite a bit. And I think we're going to be all the richer for it as a global community. So at least that's one good thing that's coming out of this.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will see you two gentlemen on October 14th. And everyone else who's watching, I'll see you on Monday, I hope, right? Our first session is with me and Ram and a few others, where we're going to set the context for the entire event. And knowing me, I'll say something silly, and knowing Ram, he'll say something profound. So we'll have everything for everybody. 21st of September through 22nd of October, 3 sessions a day, Monday through Thursday. AwakeAwareArise.com is where you can see all the schedules and speakers. And if you look in the chat comments and or the description of the video, you will see a link to register directly. Thank you so much for watching. Steve and Fons, thank you so much for being here.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
9 o'clock to Fons, or good beer o'clock.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.